you remember that I said Flutter actually gives you the power to utilize or do stuff with every pixel on the screen. So you can actually draw with Flutter. You can draw on the screen with Flutter. So these are stuff that you get to do as you are moving, but it's just good for you to know like the scale of like how far you can go. Yeah. So let's keep going. Okay, this screen. Okay, right. I was using this to explain. Okay, so if I save this, the app should just be blank, which is what we need. So we can now start explaining each one. So this scaffold widget takes a multitude of properties. So you can specify, just like the way I showed you about material app, the material app widget taking multiple properties. Same thing with scaffold. So remember how I said you can view all the possible properties that a widget can have with control space. And yeah, so you can see app bar, background color, drawer, and the likes. There are like a lot of properties that scaffold can take. Okay, wait, let me, I'm actually going to go back to using that other one that was created for us from the get-go, so that this can be a bit faster since we're running on limited time. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to remove some of this stuff. Remove this. So yeah, now our app should, look like this. So you can see in scaffold the most used properties, like the ones that you would come across often, or like for this week's task, for example. Though this week's task, I actually specified that you don't use an app bar, but it's still good to go over it. So you have the property app bar with a widget called app bar itself, and then you can pass in the title. So I'm going to go ahead and, so remember a property called app bar, then the widget. So now if I actually save this, you can see that the title is empty. Title of the app bar is now empty. And then I can now put that in, say title, and then text. So yeah, now I've put in that text the way it was. And then another thing that you should note, or you should have noted by now, is that our widgets are starting with capital letters. And that's actually because most of them are classes. And most times when you are naming classes, you tend to name them with capital letters. You get? So you'd see most times, or in fact all the time, you should always make your widgets start with capital letter. It is also easy for the eyes to differentiate between, it is also easy for you to differentiate between say widgets properties, functions, etc. when you use that convention. So you make your widgets capital, start from capital letter, and the others, normal. So yeah, that's that. Then already this app bar widget is already pointing us to talk about another widget, which is another very, very important widget, is this widget here, the text widget. So as you probably already guessed, without text, your app is going to be very your app is probably not going to be an app, because what do you use to pass info from the app to the user? It is text, right? Most times text, images, and maybe sound sometimes. But like the very basic one is text. So text. So here you can see this widget called text, and so it takes in some properties. First, the first property they are going to give it is whatever you want to be printed on the screen. In this case, it is called widget intro app. Say I changed it to whatever. Anything I change this text to, it is going to follow. Say I change to my name, for example. You can see up, it says, Albert, because that's what is passed in as the text. And this text can actually be single or double quotes. It doesn't really matter. Flutter isn't really picky about which quotes to use. So if I also did this, typed this, see, it still prints it out, because single or double quotes string in Flutter, strings aren't really picky about what about which kind of quotes you use. And then another thing that the text widget takes is another very useful one is the style. So the style is like how you get to give your text some style. So styles like font size, color, font weight, and a lot of other stuff. So say we changed the font size. Change font size. Increase that a bit. Yeah, so you can see the text gets a lot bigger when I increase the font size. So there are other properties like font weight. So you can see you have font weight or bold, normal. Normal is this one that we're using already. By default, it is normal. So you can use bold, or these are other ones that you can use with 100 to with 900. So I'm going to use bold and show you what that looks like. Yeah, so you see it gets a bit bigger also. So you can also play with the other properties that it has. And another very nice thing about learning how to code is you have Google. Yeah, let me just make it as straight as possible. So you have Google, and you can always go and search stuff. So if you just go on Google and you just search like textile in Flutter, you're going to get, a whole lot of responses, and you can keep bettering yourself and bettering your skills and playing with these things and letting them stick more in your head. So basically what I'm mostly going to be doing is, giving you intros and showing you tips that maybe you wouldn't really go out and search for yourself because you probably didn't know that they were there. But so that way I can easily, so that way I'm kind of like guiding you towards what to learn and how to learn them, that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's that for text widgets. Text widgets aren't really that complex. It is quite straightforward, the text widget. Then another property, another very useful or important property that the scaffold has is the body. Okay, change this back. Okay, so as I was saying, another very important, or maybe say the most important one, the most important property that this scaffold has is the center widget. No, sorry, I said center widget. My bad, sorry. The body property. So the body property is where you put in everything that screen is going to have. Does that make sense? So this body can be any widget. It can also be like another screen that you have made. That's like another widget that I have made that wraps other widgets, if that makes sense. So you can see, for example, in this material app that we talked about before, we have this home property that points you to the root screen, which is otherwise known as the root widget of this app. Same is almost the same thing that this body does. It kind of like points you to the main section of the app itself when building with Scaffold. So this widget center widget is also pretty useful because you can easily just use it to put stuff in the center of your screen. I'm going to use it quickly. You give it a child and with that it text to. Yeah, so this brings us to another thing that you should know. When you are creating widgets, most times, at least the inbuilt widgets that Flutter gives you, most times child, you have a child property, and that child property is, so already by now you should have already seen that the way you build apps in Flutter is like a tree. So this is what you call your widget tree, yeah, because everything is a widget, as we already stated. So for you to make those trees, you have to nest widgets inside widgets. In this case, we want to nest, or we want to put the text widget inside the center widget. That's why you have this child property. Most widgets have it, though not all, because not all widgets can actually take a child, but most widgets can take a child and they have it. So you have the child property, and then you can put in what you want to be nested. Okay, so this is quite small, so I'm going to increase that. Don't forget to style your text, style property, and then text style. Let's give it let's increase the font size. Let's make it. I'm also going to make it bold. And then another really cool thing is if you're using say VS Code, Android Studio should have it too, and other editors. When you have downloaded the plugin or the extension, the Flutter plugin and extension, you should be able to have what is called IntelliSense in your IDEs or your text editors. So IntelliSense is basically where you don't have to type everything out, but like when you're typing stuff that is when you're typing some stuff, it gives you like suggestions, that kind of thing. So you can see here, I'm actually not typing the whole font weight, I'm just typing WEI, like typing weight, and then it already gives me font weight. That's for complete beginners to development. You probably, maybe you didn't know that, but yeah, that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to make this bold. Yeah, so you can now see the text. You can also give it a color. Don't know if I should, but and then so Flutter also gives you all these colors out of the box, but you can also create yours. You can also create your own custom colors. What color goes well with green? Damn. This shouldn't be so hard. If I'm going to look very bad, but no, hell no. Yeah, let's use blue. It's easier on the eyes. Okay, so yeah, that kind of shows us what our body property does. So, and we have also already seen using the center widget, which is very quite useful. Which is quite useful. Then what else? So you can see in this particular screen, we have another property. Though this floating action button property, you probably might not have to use often or ever, but the Flutter, when you create your basic Flutter app, it actually gives you an example of the floating action button, or FAB. So it actually gives you that. So I guess I will just also go over it. So there's nothing much to the the floating action button per se. There is already a widget for it, as you probably guessed. So yeah, the widget is also called floating action button. You have these properties: compressed, tooltip, child. So the tooltip is actually, say, when you press and hold. I don't know if you can see it under. When you press and hold, it pops up the tooltip for it. Then in the middle, you can see that plus icon. You can change it to any other material icon in this case. So you can see icons. There are a lot of icons also that Flutter already gives you out of the box. So let me just change it to something else. So yeah, you can see I changed it to this add call icon, and you can see it changes immediately to that. Yeah, so what else? Okay, yeah, so just so you know, you can also style your app bar. You can style your app bar and make the styling different from what you have given at team data. So yeah, and then okay, so another thing is, so because this simulator I'm using is for iOS. It's for iOS, so that's why the title is centered automatically. But on Android, when you create this app bar, when you use this app bar widget, by default, the text is actually going to veer to the left. Yeah, so it's actually going to be to the left, but you can also make it centered. You can actually make it centered. There is a property for that inside app bar. It is called center title, I think. Yeah, it's called center title, and it takes in a boolean, true or false. So if you put true, it's going to center it. That's for those of you that are using Android emulators, which I guess will be most of you. So, on iOS by default, it centers it. But you see, when I changed it to false, it now moves it to the left. So this is how you would probably see it on an Android device. It would, by default, it is usually to the left. So, but I prefer mine in the center. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it that way. Yeah, so that is basic. That is mainly the scaffold widget itself. And just so you know, the scaffold widget is like very, very important because it kind of gives you, from the word scaffold, it gives you like a structure to your app or to your app screen already. So it is easy for you to, put stuff in place. And then another thing for you to note is that it must be in a material app. So if it is not in a material app, the scaffold is not going to be able to work for you. Then let me think about what other properties I can show you. Okay, so let's take a break from Flutter itself and widgets, and let's look at some other things. So the editor I'm using is VS Code. I don't like to use Android Studio because I don't know, I just don't like it. So for people asking questions about my own environment and how I'm able to use the extension. So yeah, you can just download the extension from the marketplace here. Flutter, it should be the first one that pops up. So when you install it, it gives you all the things, almost everything you need to run your app, create your apps, whatever. So it gives you all those things. And you can see I'm running it. I'm running the app directly from VS Code here, and it also gives you the hot reload, hot restart, and you can also stop it. So if you see me hot restart, it's going to restart it as you expect. What else? Yeah. So using VS Code, I actually usually recommend people to use VS Code to write their code because it is lighter. Though if your laptop has good specs, then you should maybe not have any problem with writing and using Android Studio if that's what you prefer. But I usually like to tell people, or most people usually like to use VS Code. So yeah. Also because you can style it. VS Code is easy to style also. So yeah. So in this in this in this meeting, we talked about a lot of widgets, talked about center, talked about text. So I think I should quickly talk about container. Let me just quickly do that right now. I'm going to remove this center here. So another very important widget. So if you notice, almost every widget I have talked about today, I've put very important behind them, because that's what they are. They are actually widgets that you almost cannot do without. So another important widget is the container, which is a very versatile and very, very useful widget, because you can use it for a whole lot of stuff. So if I save that, you can see that the screen is blank now, and the properties that your container takes, if you quickly pop up the properties, you can see alignment, you can see child. You already know what child is. It is for widgets that can nest other widgets, and container is one of those widgets. You can see color, constraints, you can see decoration, which is to style it. You can see foreground decoration, height, key. Most widgets in Flutter usually have keys, and keys are, so that you can be able to pinpoint each widget, but don't let that bother you right now. You can see margin, padding, width, etc. So if I should just quickly, because we're also running out of time on this meeting, just quickly give it a color of blue, and then give it height and width. Say the height is 30 pixels and the width is 40. Let's see if, okay, so yeah, it goes to the top. So the reason why this is not centered is because it is not wrapped with a center widget. So I'm actually going to wrap it with a center widget so that it is easy. Yeah, it is easier for us to see it, and then increase this. So you can see like a basic container, like a very simple container right there in the center of the screen. And then, as I said, this can actually take children of almost every type of widget. So you can wrap almost anything with a container. And the reason why you do that is maybe you want to give that widget a certain height, width,